Let's talk about third async Apex feature, which is called Queueable Apex. The Queueable Apex is essentially a superset of future methods, and this Queueable Apex can do some things that your future methods cannot do. Like it can handle the non-primitive data types. So here you can directly pass your S-object records inside the Queueable Apex. It also allows you to monitor your Apex jobs. So if you define a Queueable Apex, then you can track the progress from the setup page. Unlike future methods, the Queueable Apex allows you to chain your jobs. So this means you can call another Queueable class from a Queueable class. So these are some of the advantages over future methods. But I would still prefer using the future methods because of its simplicity, and I would only use the Queueable Apex when it's absolutely necessary. But it totally depends on you which solution do you want to use. Now let's take a look at a sample Queueable Apex code. So here I have a sample Queueable class which implements the Queueable interface, which is very necessary to make a class as Queueable class. This interface gives us an execute method that you need to define. Very similar to future methods, here within the execute method you can define all your asynchronous code. And if you want, you can also call another Queueable class from this execute method. So this will make a chain of multiple async operations, something which is not possible by future methods. Now in order to call a Queueable class, first you need to create an instance, and then you need to pass this instance inside the enqueueJob method which comes from the system class. In return of this method, you get the job ID which you can use to track the progress of this job. So now let's go back to our Salesforce org and implement a demo. We will again use our same example, and this time we are going to convert it to the Queueable Apex. So let's create a new class and let's name it as lead Queueable. Now in order to make this class as Queueable class, first we need to implement the Queueable interface. And once you implement this interface, then we need to give the definition to the execute method. So if you'll try to save it now, you will see this error that lead Queueable must implement the method execute. So let's define this method here. It should be public void execute, and this method accepts a Queueable context. This is something that is being used by Apex internally, so we should not be concerned about why we are using this Queueable context variable. And here we can write our asynchronous code. Let's copy our code from our lead async class. Let me open that one. And this is the code that I want to write. I'll make a simple change here. I'll write this query within this for loop itself, so that I'll get all the lead records and then I can iterate over those. And then I'll simply change the lead source for all these records to web. So again, just treat it as this is some kind of heavy operation, and that's why we are doing it in async process. Okay, it's not going to work in this way because we are getting an error which says variable does not exist, which is this existing records. So I'm going to store it inside a variable, a list of lead records. Let's name it as existing records, and we are going to store our query output here, and then we are going to iterate over these existing records. So this should work fine now. Now in order to call this class, we need to use our enqueueJob method from system class. So let's open our anonymous window. Here, first thing that we need to do is to create the instance of this class. And we are going to use our new keyword for that. And then we are going to pass this instance to our enqueueJob method, which comes from system class. So it's like system.enqueueJob, and here you can pass this instance. In return, we also get a job ID which we can store somewhere, and we can use it later on to track the progress of this particular job. Now let's execute this code and hopefully everything should work fine. And we should be able to see two log files, one for our synchronous operation, which is this first line, and as soon as we call our async operation, then another log file gets generated because this is a separate transaction. Now let's also see how we can track the progress of these async operations from our setup page. Let's go to home here and search for Apex job. And here we should be able to see all our async operations that we have run in our previous videos. So here we see the executions of our future methods, then we ran few batch classes, and just now we ran this queueable class as well. So we can track the progress from here, but the benefit that we get with batch Apex or queueable Apex is we get this ID in our code itself, and we can use this ID to track the progress using the Apex code itself, which is not possible in case of future methods. If it is a future method, then you can only track the progress from here. And here also you can only see the results, like whether it is completed or failed. Now, if you want to make a chain of queueable classes, or if you want to call a queueable class once the execution of current queueable class finishes, then you can do it from this execute method, and here you can call another queueable class as well. So that's all in this video. In the next video, we are going to discuss schedule Apex.